So I just got back from an 11-hour flight, and I spent most of it gaming on what felt like a 150-inch screen using the XREAL 1S. And look, if you've never tried AR glasses, it is something to wrap your head around, because while yes, XREAL is sponsoring this video, I have tried some AR glasses before, including XREAL's own One Pro, but these are a more reasonably priced option that's an upgrade over the XREAL 1. It absolutely is cool tech, but how can they actually fit in my routine? Well, I was going on a trip anyway, so I thought that this was the perfect opportunity to really spend some time with these in cramped spaces, hotel rooms, and other places where it's just not realistic to bring a giant monitor. And after using these for a couple of weeks now, I have thoughts. Some good, and some we need to talk about. So my first real test was on a plane. So like always, I pulled out my Steam Deck. What's cool about this is that you literally just plug one cable into a USB-C device that supports DisplayPort. So that includes the Steam Deck, a lot of laptops, phones, you name it. You don't have to deal with software to get this up and running. Plug it in and you are good to go. Now, XREAL says that you can use the screen up to 500 inches. Now, realistically, I pretty much always had mine like 150 inches, but regardless, it is way, way bigger than a phone, laptop, or Steam Deck screen. And importantly, the tracking actually works. So unlike some earlier AR headsets, which are literally just a display that's just sort of locked in front of you, this has anchor mode, which uses their custom X1 chip to lock the screen in space. What that means is that you can look around, move your head, and the display stays put, at least most of the time. Now we'll say on a plane, as the plane banks left and right, it did cause the screen to slightly drift, and that is because this is using gyro data to sort of plant that in real space. Now, it's pretty easy to deal with, you just push one button to reset, but it is something worth mentioning. These also have Bose tuned speakers built into the arms. Now, I actually didn't even use headphones for a little bit because the audio was legitimately solid. Now, sure, if you're on a noisy airplane, you probably want active noise canceling headphones, but the fact that I could just put these on and I was able to actually hear my game pretty clearly was legitimately impressive. And especially if you're in a more quiet environment like, a home or an office or something, it's completely enough. So when it comes to wearing these for a few hours straight, I will say it get a little bit warm on your forehead. It's nothing crazy, but it is noticeable. And since you're plugged in, you're drawing power from whatever device that you're connected to because there's no built-in battery. Now for me, because I was using these with the Steam Deck, I actually turned off my internal Steam Deck display because there's no reason to have two screens running at the same time. And it felt like the battery life was about the same, but I will say your mileage will vary a little bit. However, for longer sessions, there is a solution, which is the Neo. This is a little $119 battery hub that's on sale for $99 at the moment that does video pass-through while charging your device at the same time. So you can game on your Steam Deck, Switch 2, or phone while doubling your playtime. Pretty handy for flights. And specifically if you do own a Switch 2, you'll actually need this because the Switch expects a little bit of a different signal, which the Neo is specifically designed to handle. Now, a quick note on some of the B-roll that you're seeing in this video. We're doing our best to show you what the experience actually looks like with some simulated screen overlays. I'll say it's really tough to capture with an actual camera through these lenses. It does not do it justice. You don't get the depth, you really don't get the brightness. So we're doing our best. It's not perfect, but it should at least give you a good idea of what these things actually look like to use. So yeah, gaming on a plane, it actually works really well. So when it comes to gaming, what I've got right now is a 148-inch display that's about 3 meters away from me. But one of the things you hopefully should be able to see is the fact that when I'm looking ahead right now, you should see that the lenses have sort of tinted, but if I turn away, they go sort of transparent. Can you see the difference? So transparent, tinted.
Yeah, that.
You see it?
Oh, wow, yeah.
So right now, I've got about a 148-inch display in front of me. I've got my open-ear audio. I'm walking around Cyberpunk. And it's a really nice experience. So this is a 1200p display, actually a pair of 1200p displays. You also do have a 120 hertz refresh rate, which is not something I'm getting on the Steam Deck, but the XREAL is very much capable of it. God, this is like such a good way to play a game. It is crazy at how fast and how far this technology has come. There's brightness, I think it's like 600 or 700 nits. Like it's actually like I usually turn the brightness down a little bit. And if you're someone who's sort of sensitive to like motion sickness, I think this is gonna be a pretty good experience. Like I do not feel like this is remotely in like uncanny valley or uncomfortable. It feels very much like there's just an actual giant display right in front of me. This is just one of those products that's just so friggin' cool. It just works way better than it has any right to be. Now beyond gaming, I also tried using these with my laptop for actual work. Back at the hotel, editing scripts, responding to emails, that kind of thing. Now for productivity on the go, this really does work as a setup. The other night I was in bed, I put these on, plugged them into my laptop, and I was able to completely lock in with a giant display in front of me. I was listening to music with the actual speakers. It was a really cool setup. Now, obviously gaming is probably one of the main priorities, especially with the 120 Hz display, but don't sleep on these for actual productivity. You can have a giant display anywhere you want. So in addition to the giant monitor, what's nice is that you still can see the world around you. So if I look down, I can still see my keyboard, my touchpad. You are not locked into VR. I'll say it's a little bit weird at first, but it clicks really quickly. I've even used these with my Fold 7 running Dex. At that point, the phone becomes a trackpad, and you get that big screen for multitasking, for me, mostly watching video. Now there's also a real-time 2D to 3D conversion feature, which is powered by the X1 chip inside the glasses. It takes pretty much any content and adds some 3D spatial depth. One thing to know though is that the 52-degree field of view, while it's quite wide, is not your entire field of view. You're definitely getting that massive screen feeling, but if you do go over to the ultra-wide mode, you'll have to look a little bit left and right to see everything. Did I mention? Just plug one cable in and it just works? I mean, there are firmware updates if you want them, but there's no app you have to use or anything. Like, you plug in one cable to your device. Boom. I will say if you wear glasses like I do, you will need prescription inserts. They're only $50, so it's not too bad, and they're very easy to take in and put out. But the main thing is, while, depending on how bad your eyesight is, you can see these are like a screen in front of you. So if you need glasses to see a monitor that's a couple of feet in front of your face, you will also need glasses to see whatever it is that you've got on your XREALs. All right, so after a couple of weeks with these on flights and hotels, using them at home, this isn't about replacing your giant 4K monitor at home. For me, it's much more about having a legitimately usable display when you're traveling or in a cramped space, when you really want a big screen anywhere you go. So who are these for? Well, if you travel regularly or you game on a Steam Deck or other handhelds, then yeah, absolutely worth considering. If you work from hotels or coffee shops and you want a massive and very private screen, these make sense. Maybe as a frequent flyer, if you're tired of squinting at your laptop screen all day, these could be your thing. Now, if you're primarily at home with a desktop setup, they can still be used. You can plug it into your device if it has USB-C, but I'll say it doesn't really shine as much there, right? This is much more about portability. Price-wise, you're looking at a $449 MSRP for the One S, $50 less than the previous generation, and the Neo is another $99 for this month, although it will be increasing to $119 soon, and that is if you want the battery pass-through. Although I will say that's totally optional depending on how actually you want to use it. I like this, it's quite useful, but for the most part, I just was able to plug this directly into my Steam Deck and not worry, at least for a short amount of time before I need to plug in. Now, if you compare these to a certain $3,500 headset, I will say that I actually found that this is more useful, and it's a very, very different value proposition. Look, I'm genuinely surprised by how much I've liked using these. Are they perfect? No. Will I use them every single day? Probably not. When it comes to travel or when I want to really lock in, these are super useful, and they're far more impressive than any other AR glasses I've ever tried. I'll have a link in the description if you want to check these guys out, and of course, huge thank you to XREAL for sponsoring this video. I am really, really glad that I gave them a shot.